talked with Eve, who is a short story writer who just recently published her first few stories online. And I got to meet Eve because we worked together, and for some reason we started talking, and immediately I was blown away by our conversation. She was just so rich in terms of the things that she talked about and the things that she was passionate about. There was so much there that I wanted to explore.
It was really wonderful to hear her creative process and also just to understand that creative processes are different and they manifest themselves in a range of ways. And I think also just the realness and the honesty with which she brings herself to the craft. Really insightful conversation. Great, thanks. We're here with Eve of the White Waters. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Eve is living in London here and is a writer, and particularly a writer of short stories, and also maybe a fellow traveler, kind of mover. And I think at this point it sounds like you're as many artists are, I think, trying to find this balance between survival and getting on in the world, and finding the space and the time and the energy to drive forward your passion and to, in this case, publish.
Yeah.
Which I think is really relevant for a lot of people. And I'd be curious to hear where you feel like you're at in that journey, because I know you said that you've maybe been doing that for some years now.
Yeah.
And how that feels where you're at the moment.
At the moment, it feels like I'm waiting for it to happen. It's like I've been waiting for a long time. I've been working on it for a couple of years. And now that, so to say, it's just like 3 weeks away. And finally I can publish what I really did in the last years. It feels like it's about time. It's like, because these are the oldest of my stories, actually, and I've written so much other stuff that's actually coming out within the next few months and years. And you always think like, it's not even, I don't know, it's not even relevant at the moment anymore for myself, for example, but it's relevant for other people when they read it. And you just want to get on, like, you know, it's like, and it has taken such a long time. I came back actually from Berlin here because I wanted to do that. I realized that I couldn't do it in Germany. I needed to be here. And
why is that?
It's just because the life in Germany is a different way than here. I mean, London is always a special place. It's not everything that's going on in London is not like how people in the countryside are living. It's like, but in Germany you have like a very conservative way of thinking how you want to have your life, actually. And so it's like at my age, you know, you should have like a really good job. You should have if a flat by yourself, planning already for like your pension later, and maybe having a family, or you know what you want to do in that case. And if you try to be an artist, although Berlin is the best place to be in Germany for being an artist, it's still not like that people give you the opportunity to really go wherever you want and do whatever you want. For me, it's like the job that I have, it's just for survival. It's not like it's not my passion, it's not my love.
Sure.
It's like I do it very well because everything I do, I try to do the best way I can. But when I go home, I'm the artist and that's what I'm doing.
Sure.
And people are always like, oh, you're going home. What are you doing? I'm like, well, I have to write, I have to work on actually the artwork on it. I have to meet my friend who is like the musician. We want to do something with each other. What are you doing? I'm watching a TV show. You know, it's like, that's the difference.
Do you find that you have routines for practicing writing, or you've got a schedule, or how do you organize that in your mind?
Or do you organize that?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not like you.
You sound quite.
Yes, fair point.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Yeah, me.
You become a bit of a planner, I suppose.
I have started to
You've improved.
learn from some people, like my friend Nathan here.
I'm a semi-planner, I think.
Yeah. Well, compared to me, you're a very good planner. So.
For me, it's more like I have a plan what I want to do on the weekend, but usually something can be completely different. It's like it depends on whether you have to finish something. Like at the moment, I have to finish a short story that I have been writing for a longer time than I wanted, and I need to wrap it up. Otherwise, it will be disappearing in, I don't know, in some cupboard, and one day in the future it will come up. But sometimes it's like that something happens, you meet people. For example, I met someone very nice yesterday evening at the pub where my friend was playing, and you have more ideas then, and you think, oh, I could do something like this, and then you're writing something else, or you're doing like on the cover artwork, for example, something. Yeah. It's like you have an idea what you might be doing on the weekend, but unless a publication is coming where you know, okay, I need to do the editing, that must be done until that point.
Right.
It's always like, let's have a look, what's happening.
Yeah.
It's always like this.
So you find that you're pretty fluid with plotting, and you are just particularly aware of any kind of like deadlines you need to hit.
Yeah.
I also, you've also mentioned a couple times, I think, where this like evolution of content. So you said, I've been working on these 3 stories for so long. Are they even relevant anymore? How do I even care about them anymore? Do they still, maybe they don't resonate with me emotionally? And you just mentioned it again. I'm just going to throw it in the and I'll come back later to it. What's your relationship like with content? Because I've heard this also from songwriters and other people who are producing or creating, that this relationship with the work is shifting and evolving as you go, and you. As a writer, I imagine it's also quite challenging because the pieces are long and they take a long time to create. And what is your relationship with the work, and how has it changed?
Actually, you have to understand that I actually come from poetry, and it developed to become longer and longer, and then it was not good enough for poetry anymore because it's too big. And I never wanted to write novels, actually, and I knew that somewhere in between I must like have my style there. And with the stories, it's like, because they are evolving around memories, I have to say a memory even from my own life or from people I know, or even like political, like just things that happen. And then I built like a fictional story around it. And so if you have something like the stories that I will publish like in 3 weeks' time, one of the stories has been going on for like 10 years. But I could not write it until that time, because sometimes you really need also the time to digest it. Loads of things, it's like you cannot do it directly in the moment when it has happened, because you need to understand yourself. What did I actually learn about that? What do I want to give to other people so that they maybe learn something for themselves, or like, what's valuable about what happened to me? And these 3 stories are relatively dark to start, so to say, your publishing. It's not like, it's not, you're not writing a romantic comedy and then you're like, everyone thinks you're a romantic writer, and next your next book will be like that. And if you look at the stories that I have, it's they're 3 completely different stories, and some is about faith and religion, which I was like tackling like 10 years ago.
Sure.
And then you have like one is about actually based on someone I know, someone who's very close to me, and the youth of that person. And then you have one that is actually very important to me, because it is about mental health, and it's problems that I also experienced and that I do not have anymore. and I'm not in the same situation anymore than when I wrote it, but I needed to write it at that time. I always think about what I have been writing now and what is coming up for the reader actually, once I have published and once it's outside. So it's
How do you do that?
Do you think that the writing helps to deal with whatever?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
That's the reason actually why
Or
I
whatever
started.
is in like the mental health and
Yeah, whatever situation you find yourself in.
Yeah, that's why I
time.
started writing actually. It was like a therapy for myself. I was not even thinking about when I was 14, 15 to release anything of that, because it's like too personal to give away to other people. And that's how you change in the time, because I think that's exactly why I have to give it out to the world, because people can see, you're not alone with your problems.
Yeah.
There are other people who have the same situation like you, or like know what you're going through, and they care about you. And there is a way out of it, or like a way to deal with it, or learn to become a person after that.
yeah.
And that's very important for me, and that's why I did it in the end, to decide yes, I am an artist, and not like, I don't know, it could have been something else after my studies. I could worked in other stuff, but I did not.
Yeah, it's so important too, these like gentle reminders that you're not alone, and that actually there are other people in the world that are thinking pretty much the same thing as you are, and they're going through similar experiences, and they're trying to grow and trying to evolve, and I think it's an important thought. Also, I think that it's those types of exercises, like I know writing exercises, breathing exercises, certain things help me, just work through any kind of frustration or anger or stress or anxiety that I might have in any particular moment. But they're also incredible creative tools, and even just something like free writing is incredibly therapeutic, but also is such a kind of spark for creativity. Do you find that you have developed ways to practice writing and to tap into your own creative process in that way, or things that you kind of come back to that help you do that?
I always had some kind of, I would call them rituals. It's like because I've always
like
reacted
writing rituals.
Writing rituals. It's like rituals like before
I like
you
that. write. I like that.
It's
yeah.
like I've always reacted to.
It's like a faith.
Probably. It's like it's my own, it's like my own cult.
You went all the way Nietzschean and just like built your own religion.
Yeah. No, I've always reacted to music
Yeah.
a lot, music is actually my first love. And when I go to concerts, when I go just like listen to stuff at home, I know exactly, I have like certain bands or certain moods that certain songs are giving you, and I know exactly this is the thing that I need.
They trigger you.
Yeah, it's like I've always had that.
How do you know in the moment what you need? Like, how do you know what song that you want to pick? Or
Because usually what happens with my stuff is I have a topic that I think, I want to write about that. Sometimes I even have scenes already. I know people, how they look like, what they will say, what will happen in the beginning, in the end, some crucial point. And then I have a feeling what kind of mood that is. And then I'm going like crazy, searching for my for my music. It's like, where do I have the correct, the correct mood in it?
yeah.
And sometimes also that I know when I listen to something that I will in the future write something with that, like in the background. It's a bit like a soundtrack, what I'm listening to. And it was completely true. I had there was an album I listened to in 2001, and I have been writing something now that is, has the same kind of mood, the same kind of darkness and heaviness that's in there. And I knew that in the future it would be important, and it became important.
Yeah.
So.
What's the album?
Oh, it's like it's a Finnish death metal band.
I love that. That's amazing.
And
The Finns are like that's really aggressive. Some of that music. Huh?
oh, they can be, but I know the Finns quite well, and lots of Finnish bands I love, and so I wouldn't say that in general.
Yeah.
So
Great language though.
It is
Amazing
It's
language.
like Elvish, right? It sounds like Elvish.
Yeah, but you will never learn it.
It's extraordinary. Yeah.
Don't try. Don't try.
My first choice, to be fair.
The band is called Before the Dawn. They're not even existing anymore, but
Okay.
they like the songwriter. He has different bands these days, and it's all like it has this depth in all of the stuff that he is
Sing
doing.
in English or in Finn? In Finnish?
In English, yeah.
In English.
And
What-
My Darkness is the album. Yeah.
What's the way that you start to construct content or stories? Like how do you know, or how does that come to you, the plot and the characters and the kind of message that you want to get across? How do you start to formulate that or collect that?
Well, it really depends on what happens, actually. If you have, I can explain one of the stories that will come out this year. I wrote about the shooting in the gay club in Jacksonville in 2016, and when I got the news for that, it was like my initial reaction, because I have someone who's gay who's very, very important to me, and I was like, oh my god, it could have been him. It's not, I know he's not living in Jacksonville. He will never be there. He is not the one.
Yeah.
He's not the one who's dying. And but then I saw like that one picture of a boy, I think it was a black boy, and his grandmother, she posted, I think on Instagram or somewhere, a picture of her grandson, and she said, that was my grandson, and he died. My beautiful grandson, he died. And I was like, I was so touched by this. But when I got the information about that this happened, I was actually in Florence on holidays, and I was like in a hostel, and there was a girl next to me. I will never forget that. She was just like browsing through her phone, and oh yeah, there was like a shooting in Jacksonville. Let me have a look. Yeah, oh, some gay people. And I was like, yeah, this is how the information comes to us, right? We don't have any feeling anymore about things like that, because either it's the violence we're used to,
It's normalized.
or that we are like, oh yeah, it's just a gay club. For me, this hit home. It was like very close to my person, actually, and I was like, how can you react like that? And I knew at that time, I will write a story, and I will make you hurt. When you read it, you will not think, oh, it was just a shooting. It was like just people I didn't know. It was like, yeah, okay, they're gay. I have nothing to do with gay people. I thought, I want to give you the feeling back for what has happened. And that's what I did. I created a story about a person that you get to know, and I know exactly you want to get to know him even more, but he will die. And you will never have the chance to find out who that person was. And then you will see how much it hurts. And that, that was the thought process for that story, actually, how I actually came up with doing it.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple times empathizing with the reader, or trying to provoke a particular emotion in that instance.
Yeah.
How do you keep that in mind as you're creating? Because I think in the work that I do as a facilitator and a designer, ultimately everything that I'm trying to create as an experience or as an offering is really trying to meet a need and meet something fundamental, or respond to an emotion on a really kind of deep level. And I imagine that's similarly to what you're describing as well as a writer.
Yeah.
How's that process for you?
The thing is, first you need to know for yourself, what do you think people lack? What do you think? What do you want to give to people? Because for me, I'm not writing. Of course, I'm happy if you read it and you like what you've been reading and you think about it. But I'm not here to entertain you. Because you can go into a bookshop and take so many books. There are thousands of books that are just there to entertain you, to give you a good time. And then you put it away. You maybe tell your friends about it. It was a good time when you read it. But it's not like it hasn't moved you as a person, right? That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Because I want to give you something valuable. That something, of course, I can't know whether you will be changed for the rest of your life when you're reading something that I wrote.
Yeah.
But I want to give you something to think about. I want to give you something to make something in your life change or better. Either how you are with people, how you look at the world, how you action yourself, like what you do in the world. Actually, I think that I want to show people all of the things that they like to suppress, and they like to just like evade, like in a way. And this is something, you try to evade that you actually or avoid that you actually even know people who could be affected. That it is a horrible thing that someone is having the idea to go with a gun into a club where people actually that are already a minority, they are happy to have a place where they can go to be together without being discriminated. That they go there, and the whole situation was because he planned that for weeks with his wife together. His wife has never informed the police, nothing. She even drove him there so that he go in there, kill people, and she knew he would be probably killing himself. So we don't even have someone to punish the right way for what he did. And I want you to be upset about that. How low are we as people to get there? And I always think about what is actually the crucial thing that I want to give you for a certain kind of story. And if I write something about mental health, for example, what is it that I want to give you? I want to show you you're not alone, but I also want to show the other people, what are you doing? Because, how do you treat people? How can it be that they feel so alone? It's not just all chemicals in our head.
Yeah.
It's also society. How can it be that someone is getting there?
What do you think that crucial point is in your writing? How do you convey? Where does it come along, and how do people access that crucial point, you think? And
I think it's because I've forced them to empathize. It's like I don't give you a choice. Because no, it's like as a narrator, you can either be the person that is like God, you know everything that's happening. I tell you something, and it's up to you what you're doing with it.
Right.
I'm not like that. I am, because I somehow I take the side of someone in this, like in the story. And I want you to understand the side of this person, and
the side as in their point of view.
Their point of view, yeah. I want you to understand the person that you actually usually are not thinking about in a situation like that. And I do not give you a choice. You still can say in the end, okay, it wasn't for me, or you learned something, at least how the characters were, living in that situation, but I do not give you the choice to just get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I am writing in general. I force you to be there completely, and if you're not with me in the story, if you do not let me lead you, you will not enjoy it at all.
Even if you're fighting it, you're gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Don't fight it.
Yeah.
That should be like the preface, Don't fight this. Just enjoy it.
Let me take you on a
journey.
ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I guess is like, that's I feel like that's kind of what we do with movies. Like movies are very much you're gonna go sit there for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you're not really gonna leave because you've paid $15 or pounds or whatever, and you're just gonna go through it. And you might not like it, but you're gonna see all of it, kind of thing. Unless you're like a few really like good people who just walk the hell out. They don't give a shit, you know. which I
rock, by the way.
Which I love. I do love when people just say like, I'm not gonna waste my time and walk out. But in London, I mean, this is like a perfect transition to London, because London, you're paying £20 to go to the cinema, the movie theater. So, but in London also. Like a few cities I've lived in, it can be really hard to create a sense of place or a sense of belonging in a community or in a neighborhood because of, I guess, the nature of legislation and how just also, I guess, the nature of potentially people our age who are a bit more mobile and unsettled, I suppose. It also sounds like you've moved around quite a bit in the last maybe 5 to 10 years.
I did.
Yeah, including myself as well. I'd be curious to hear how that has influenced your ability to feel settled or feel secure, and create the space and the energy for you to then go and write and and create and do the stuff that you.
And I would also like you to tell us where did you stop? What were your stops?
Yeah,
my stops. From after studying, I studied in Leipzig at the University of Leipzig.
In Germany.
Yeah. I lived there for 2 years more, but I did not find a job. It was just like, that's how it is. As a young academic, nobody wants you. And
more and more.
Yeah, and that's when I decided I leave the country. And I left for London, which was like with nothing, an experience in itself. I wouldn't recommend it to people to do it the way I did, because I lived like it's not for exactly. It's not. You have to be tough to do this. I was just naive, but
naive.
Yeah, it just you get there.
It was a good learning moment, I imagine.
It was. I lived for 5 months in a hostel. And
5 months?
Yeah.
Where, like in Leicester Square, like in the middle of the city?
No, in Camden. What do you think?
I mean, you got
you do have the Camden...
death metal, like...
Yeah.
You need, like, if you're an artist, you need to be either Camden or Shoreditch. And Shoreditch wasn't the place to go at that time. It was Camden. But it was also cheap. And it was like the hostel where I was living was also cheap. But
fuck, 5 months in a hostel, man.
Yes, it was first 3 months. I didn't really find like the security, a job that, to move out of the hostel. So I had to go back to Germany over Christmas. And then I got back again to London for another like 2-3 months until I got like support from my parents. I said, okay, best thing is you get a room somewhere, and then let's see what's happening. It was a struggle. And at that time, it was because I always had the thing, why do I go to London? I want to be with other artists. I need to have the connection to other people who understand what I want to do in life. And it's also, exactly how it is if you're with other artists. It's just like this. Because you have one idea after the other, and because you're connecting with each other, you can become so much more than you are alone. And it was not possible where I was living before. And that's why I went to London. And I always had that, it's some kind of my, the illusion that you have. Like, it's the wish that drives you to go somewhere. Yeah. And I just needed, so to say, the security, like what I have at the moment. Like, a job, a room. That's all I needed to do what I actually came for. And that, let's say, that was like a struggle as well. Because people always want you to work some jobs that are actually absolutely uninteresting for you. You don't want to do them. You need to do them, but it's also because you have here in London, the commuting. So much time of your day is actually taken away by a job that you actually only need for surviving and traveling. And in the evening, you're just like tired, and your body tells you, okay, go to bed. But you have like, no, I have like 3 hours left of the day to do what I actually came to do.
Here to do.
Yeah.
How were you able to remind yourself and to really push yourself when like on a Wednesday evening when you just want to like say fuck off, I'm gonna go to bed?
Yeah.
What allowed you to continue to practice and write or does help you push through?
I don't have that much to distract myself. I don't have a TV.
Yeah.
I only have a laptop, but because I'm working at the computer the whole day, I don't want to look at the screen anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, leave it there. And the good thing is, because I'm writing on paper with a pen, I don't have to go to the computer to, and I will not end up on YouTube, like watching some videos.
And like me.
It's like, like other people.
What are you trying to say?
It's
I think that was one of our topics of conversation before you showed up.
Oh, okay.
It's an addiction, and obviously because I'm in my situation is that I'm just doing this thing here at home and
making films.
And this is why like I've had to like sort of force myself into discipline and into like organizing my days and stuff like that, because otherwise it's just you just go and you end up like seeing just whatever is on your computer just will suck you in and it will suck your day.
No, it will not happen to me. It's like I have my notebook at home where I write my stories in. So you could read, so to say, the original version, because I have them at home, all of them.
You've got them all written out.
But to me it just sounds also that, I mean, if you're doing that, that means that your drive for it, you definitely have like a, it's a big pull. Pull as in like it really must pull you in.
For me it's what I'm here for. It's like my purpose.
Yeah.
It's like because if your purpose in life is okay, you in the end you want to have a family, you want to marry, you want to have kids, then you go there in this direction. You will not, like me, come home, sit down and think about what can I give to other people from me. You don't do that.
It's meaning, right? It's like I mean, and as an artist, I find the same. It's cool because in a way, like I know that I don't need much. Like I'm okay with like being in survival mode as long as I can continue creating, because the meaning of my life comes from that.
Yeah.
Rather than
Yeah.
Well, I guess also you do create a bit of a vision for yourself. It maybe consciously or not, but I guess this is also what I would do with teams in the groups that I work with and the teams I facilitate, is trying to remind people what's the collective vision and the collective goal that we have here, and how do we keep each other accountable to that, even on days that you don't feel well.
Yeah.
How do you remind yourself, actually I'm here for a reason, and also I'm here to be secure and get paid, obviously, but I'm also here to serve, or to take care of, or to show respect to, or to whatever, that help things grow. Or for you, what do you find helps you, remind you of your vision, or your kind of where you're headed as an artist or a writer? How do you continue to remind yourself, oh yeah, actually that's why I'm writing, and I'm going to take the next 2 hours to write and really like get myself into it.
And by the way, don't forget that I still want to hear the rest of the travel story. Let's just,
we need to come back.
We can just come back to that in a second.
You're digressing.
We've meandered.
I think when you're an artist, you always have you always need to think that what you're doing is important. Otherwise, why do it? Because you do not know whether you will ever get the money for it, whether you will ever, lots of people want to be famous, but, let's talk about the people that don't go out there because they want to be like on Britain's Got Talent or something like that. You think that something that you do, either in music or in whatever you do, is valuable to other people as well. And for me, I look back at my whole life until now, and I see that there are things that have happened that are important to tell. And it's really my life that I'm looking at, and the people that I met. And these are the points that actually keep me going. It's also other artists, when I see, oh my God, they really, I don't know, music is usually what affects me most. When I see bands that actually create stuff that I think is so good and so valuable, and I want to tell everyone about it. And this is good. This is great, because I see other people doing that as well. And they remind me of what you are doing is valuable, and it's good, and it's a good thing to actually fill your time with. You know, whether I could be sitting at home watching just TV shows. There are TV shows I like as well, not on television, but you know, and you have to pay for it usually. But it's not, so to say, the content of my life.
Sure.
It's not what I want to do. And there is, I always think, you know, I want to leave something of myself here. And I want to improve something in society. It's like a big goal. It's what in Germany, when you say that to someone, they are like, are you sure you want to say that in public?
What's that? What is that reaction? That because I've heard this also something similar about Scandinavian societies, that there is like some level of accomplishment or like some level of aspiration at times can be like
too much.
Tall poppy syndrome.
What is it?
That's what they call it.
What?
Tall poppy syndrome. So like
tall poppy syndrome.
It's I think actually there's some countries which basically, even their law like sort of translates this, which is if you do too well, like say if you have a company. I mean, I'm thinking about Elon Musk, for example. He went to the States because...
Was he Dutch?
He's from Australia.
He's Australian.
Because I think if you get to a certain point, like the state makes it more and more hard for you to do things, right? So like...
yeah, so, well, so there's like a legislative element of it, of like taxation and yeah, I guess there's also like what is like the underlying kind of like philosophy.
Yeah, there's a philosophy to it, I think.
I understand that. From for businesses, not for artists.
But it's the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing, because businesses are there to make money, and to
depends.
I guess some businesses.
Yeah, okay, it depends on what kind of business it is. But usually the businesses that are doing too well has something to do with selling something, with a product. And I think...
But it could be something that is just really helping people out. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, the iPhone, like, did end up connecting us in ways that we could have not expected it to.
But it also disconnected us in ways that we couldn't expect.
Yes, but it's not the tools problem. It's not the tools. It's,
well,
it's the way that people are using it.
I suppose that's like a pretty nuanced discussion, right? Because human nature is going to respond a particular way through when provided some impetus, and that particular impetus is quite like it's quite a strong drug-like impetus, and you can just walk around and see how strongly people are connected to this thing, which is not a connection to people, and I think your point too about how we take in now information is a great example of that, But you're talking about, you're talking about adding value. You're talking about adding value, right? Like this thing on some level adds value because people are willing to pay for it, that's like, I think that becomes a bit of like a tricky conversation, because there's a whole range of types of companies adding value in a lot of different ways, some of which are much more interested in meaningful experiences and supporting, like I think what you're trying to create, and some are much more interested in security, which is money, But
try and go back to the whole, to where we started from. I think we just deviated a little bit. I think it's like the idea that one person actually has the power to change things, right? And that's like, at least this is what I'm getting from it, and this is why you think.
Well, yeah, for me it's more like recruiting other people to change something. One person alone cannot change anything. It's other people that connect with each other.
I think you can.
I think you're always you're the point where things start, But
There you go.
but that doesn't mean that you're the only person that ever thought about this.
No.
Never think about that. It's like
Yeah.
we are too similar as people
Like
to
notes.
have like completely original from I don't know, out of
for
space
Yeah.
ideas. My point is that when you in Germany, when you have an idea that is actually society based, you want to change something in humans, and not like in how business is done, or like it's like all of these things. They find it ridiculous, and they do not do everything to support you in that,
Yeah.
because they think that's maybe something that I don't know, faith does, right? The church does,
Yeah.
or it could lead into radical movements, for example, like in a negative way. A good example of what's going on at the moment is all of these students that are protesting every Friday in Germany because of the climate change. Because it started in Sweden with Greta. What's her name? I don't know.
This young girl.
This young girl.
Who did she speak to? The UN.
Climate conference, something like
Yeah,
that.
some
I think,
UN body on
and
the environment.
she so to say started that people actually look at what young people are doing. I think it's a great thing. It's absolutely awesome, because they are, even if they are not completely understanding everything about that, because we don't even understand everything from the scientific perspective, from the business perspective, everything that's connected to it. They still fight for the future, because it's them who will have the problems, and their children.
We're going to have the problems. I mean, this feels like it's coming.
Yeah,
it's
it feels like it's coming already in our time. But your grandparents or my parents, for example, the generations that actually made it happen, right? That we have this climate change. They actually are the people that don't do anything.
Yeah,
And
I guess that's also, for me, that feels like a bit of a dangerous narrative as well, because and I think it goes back to what you're saying earlier about businesses being disconnected from the artist.
Yeah.
Like there is this kind of story of separation, or like of I'm not part of that. And I think, like, if a business doesn't see any value in art and empathy and these elements of society, that they're completely intertwined and cannot be disconnected. I mean, it's the nature of how we exist as humans and beings. And I think the same thing goes with this kind of narrative around climate change. And it is really important that collective groups stand up and say, hey, this isn't okay. And actually, I'm almost not as concerned as to whose fault it is. And this is what I do with my teams. This is what I do with my teams. I don't. We try really hard not to blame, because blame is the antithesis of trust and of psychological security and of ability to innovate and to change. And the question is always, okay, these are the issues that we understand. And some of them, you're right, some of them we don't understand. Some of it's quite complex. But this is what I can do, this is what we can do as a team to make the change and move forward. So
I understand that point, but the thing is, we have to accept responsibility. And
Absolutely.
I have the feeling that nobody is there because we are talking like that nobody is taking responsibility. But it's also that why I said that about Germany is because it's not the older generations that walk. It's the younger generations that walk.
Yeah.
Because don't take me wrong, but the older generations, they will die soon. But the younger generations, for them, it's their life that's actually
I think
impact.
I gotta just put a point there. I think also we didn't realize what we were doing. Like, we just realized very recently that this is happening. We didn't know. Like, so you can't really like put that much blame on this generation, because at the end of the day, like, I think for the fact that we've realized that we are actually like an organism that does change the planet, we are actually taking action really fast, and people are aware of it, and I'm glad that it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation, I
think you should. For me, is you shouldn't focus on the blaming part. What I just wanted to explain is that it's the young people, now that we know theoretically everyone could do something, right? But the ones that actually do something
I don't know.
are the younger people. Yeah, well, how we do something, whether we can do something is a different thing. But what I mean is that if you ask people in Germany, what do you think about the young students striking every Friday, going on demonstrations for climate change? I can tell you that in Germany there are people who think this is a good thing.
Yeah.
But the majority of them is like, they're students, they should be in school and not doing things like that. Demonstrating is like as if they cannot change it anyway. That's the way of thinking in Germany. They cannot change it anyway. We can only maybe get a change via political decisions. I could say, the political decisions will never be there if people are not forcing the governments to do it. And what I mean is that whenever you try to change something in society that has nothing to do with that we get better work, that we get better money, that we are wealthier as a society, in Germany is always like futile. Don't do it. You will never change anything. It's the negativity that's actually in there.
Right.
And if you go out there and you say, I'm an artist, I write stuff, and I hope that people who read it change something. It's like, oh my God, where's she?
Would you say they're temperamentally pessimistic people, the Germans?
Yeah, it has. It's connected to our history as well.
You just find that you get a lot of pushback when you say, "Look, I've got aspirations for my writing, and I think I can get people to rethink their behaviors, their habits."
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point too, because I think your comment about walking, and I think the conversation around climate change and also not just climate change but large social issues is never about what's the individual's responsibility. It's always, well, the system is fucked or the government's corrupt, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. And also, how much are you looking at your own behavior, your own ability to empathize, your own habits? What are you eating? How are you getting around? What kind of work are you doing? I mean, all these things people are really unwilling to reflect and look at themselves, because we understand quite well actually that the way food is produced, for example, is a massive has a massive impact on climate and local economies and the health of the soil, and all that academic research is out there, and also on the health of our bodies. We understand that really pretty well. Yeah. I mean, as well as maybe there's a spiritual element that we don't understand very well, and kind of cosmic. But I think that's really important, that we do continue to push that as a narrative that, hey, I'm going to write stuff, I'm going to create stuff, I'm going to live my life in a way that I think is promoting some individual behavior change.
Although, in the other side of the argument is people are not starving anymore, which is pretty good.
Here, no, they're not starving here.
Well, generally, just everywhere in the world is doing a lot better than it was 50
Yeah, but you
years
can't
ago.
say that about Africa.
Oh, yeah, you can, actually. You can.
Not
I think there's some... I think things have progressed quite... I mean, poverty levels have definitely decreased. Certain, major illnesses have definitely decreased. I mean, in terms of, malnutrition, I think is largely decreased over the last, 10, 20 years. I think it's good to celebrate, and we do need to acknowledge that things are going well. But I think also you can, here in East London, the kind of child poverty rates and child hunger levels is extraordinary for one of the richest nations in the world.
Don't get me wrong. I'm totally with you. I'm just saying that we also should appreciate the fact that there are a lot of good things happening and going well, and it is good that people are pushing for further change and for more transformation. But we can't. We have to be able to give value to the things that we have achieved as a society.
Yeah, but I would say these are two different things, because one thing is on the basic living and surviving, and the other thing is how we live. And I never said that I can do both. I can't give people I can't give people work. I can't get them out of poverty. I can't make them buy the right things, for example. I hope they will
Yeah, and maybe those aren't your fight.
But this is not my fight. My fight is, how do you treat your children if they're different than you? How do you treat your neighbor if they're different than you? Or like, and why do you do that? Where is your hate coming from? Or where is your positivity coming from? It's like, you know, it's like these things. I'm caring about like the inside, I would say, of people, because I think it's what makes us human, and it's what counts in the end.
Yeah.
It's like because the way we are living, it's like you cannot afford too much. I cannot afford too much as well. But it's not my issue. It's not my problem. As long as I have enough to survive, like you as well, live in the way that I can think about, oh, today I'm going to the movies, something like that, and not like in 3 months I might have the money to go to the movies once. As long as I can live like that, I can focus on what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, it's a bit like, because I'm not I'm an atheist. I'm not a believer. So for me, this is actually the part of spiritual, you know, the spiritual part that actually the religions are taking care for, group movements, and that's, you know, what I focus on, because I learned from my life, this is what is the most important part to human beings, because you can survive on just like little food. But if you have no friends, if you have no family, if you have no purpose for yourself in life, and also no connection in whatsoever to nature or the world, you are fucked.
Yeah, I think it's I think what you said about your fight is so important. I think people oftentimes don't reflect on what their fight is, and actually, you know, just because you're not going to go out and run a marathon for AIDS, or you're not going to support this or that, or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that you don't care, or that you're not personally responsible for the things that you're doing in the world. And even as an artist, you have a fight, and you show up every day, and and you care about something, and you believe that there's a better way to live, and you've got faith in that. Actually, like I'm sure you walk out of the house every day, and you believe that there is a form of justice that you want to live according to, and there's a form of care or affection that you want to show to people, and you also want to receive as well. And I think it's something that we just don't reflect on much. Generally, it's a huge generalization, but it's not something that we've ever been taught in school. You know, what's your fight? What's meaningful to you? What do you actually give a shit about? And how are you working on that and reminding yourself of that on a day-to-day basis? What's your faith? What do you believe in? You know, that would be a tough question to ask in school these days. You might lose your job. You know, if you ask someone, what do you believe in? But I think it's all hyper relevant for today, and also for someone who's putting stuff out and manifesting things in the world. It's massive.
Let's continue through your journey.
That's right, because you were in Leipzig, and then you came to London. You went back, then you came back to London. You established yourself. You also told me that you were in Berlin for some time. You were also in Stockholm for some time, and now you've been back in London for a bit. So you have had this kind of mobile existence.
Why did you move? Why did you go to?
It's always about art. I left London because I realized that I did not have the time that I wanted to write. It's also like the living situations that we have here in London. I was living with like 8 people in the end, in the house. And I was like, I felt like I have no private space. Although I have a room, I have no private space. I cannot focus on what I want to do. I don't even, at some point, the traffic was annoying me so much, like the traffic in London, that I felt like I can't even hear my own thoughts anymore, because I only like do, and it's like, you know, it's like people on the phone, everyone's speaking.
Yeah,
on
stop
the phone.
speaking. What are you doing?
It's like, and they're just next to you, right? They're just next to you. You don't even see that because they only have like their cables, and you think, oh, they're listening to music. No, they're speaking to someone, and then like suddenly they start, and you're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
When that happened, that was a real shock. I think I was like 18, 19 when that started happening. When people like started talking with their earphones, and that was
And I thought,
freaked me out, man.
I need to.
That freaks me out.
I thought I need to leave. I also the stress also impacted me health-wise.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling very well anymore, and I needed to leave. So I thought, okay, you go somewhere because I love the north. It's not a secret. Whoever knows me, I love Scandinavia and I love Finland, and I have friends in Stockholm, and I wanted to go somewhere where I can focus on my thoughts and on writing. And I thought that when I'm not in that noisy city anymore, I could do that. I could focus on it, do like what I've been doing before, like have like a security job and do that. It was not working out, and that's not well on that. It was not working out. That's why I left for Berlin, because I had friends in Berlin as well, and I thought like, okay, it's a bit of a bigger city. It's artistic as well, and let's see whether things have changed in Germany. I had to realize they have not, and because nobody is working on society.
When did you have that realization? Was it pretty quick?
Yeah, it was pretty quick, but I was still like, my health was still not improving, so I had to take more time, and I had to think about, what do I want to do? Do I really want to go back to London, fight again for just surviving, and then getting to the situation that maybe I can do something art-wise, or am I stuck in Berlin? But actually, this is actually not a question. I knew exactly where it would lead. Yeah. Because
how did you know?
If you live in Berlin or like in Germany, you're sucked into the system, into the how society is working. They want you to have the right insurances. They want you to have like your own place. What, you're still living with that? Okay, it's just because you're living in a city. You need to have a flat of your own. And it's like, no, but that's how it's working. It's like everything is focusing on your living situation and your work. Germans are very they actually give the value to their life a lot about their work. And it's always, when you go in Germany, what are you doing? Which is, what are you working? Sure. And whenever I was in Germany, I said, yeah, I'm a writer, and I try to publish. That's nice, but what are you working?
Okay.
That's that's the way it is. I don't want to say that living in Germany is bad. It just depends on what you want for your life. And I realized in Berlin, it's not working. It's not like I don't have the freedom that I need to do that, and I feel that I have it here, and this is why it was inevitable that I had to go back.
What was the moment that you said, yeah, this isn't going to work, like I really need to get back to London, even though as you said, it was like I got to start over again, I got to really fight? What was the moment?
I realized that in Germany, for me it's very hard to connect to people, to meet people, or let's do something after work, I'm traveling a lot. I'm like, let's do something together. And it's really hard. It's really hard to get the Germans moving. Like, after work, maybe on the weekend, but usually they do something with their partners or their family. Yeah. And friends, yeah, maybe for a drink, but on the weekend, not, it's like, right. Life is not, it's not as, for me, it's not as easy as it is here. Right. I can say, with someone, okay, let's meet after work, because everyone knows, okay, weekend is busy anyway, let's do something in the week as well. And use your time that you have. And I realized very, very fast that in Berlin, I still felt disconnected. Although I met people, it was not that we were really like getting to the stage of being friends. Yeah. When I started to leave the city, people wanted to spend more time with me. It's like whenever because whenever you're not there anymore, it's like they feel the need to connect. But I'm happy about my friends that I have in Berlin and that come over here regularly to see me, and I come to Berlin to see them.
Yeah.
But I realized it's not working. It's like the system, society is not working for me. I knew that already as a child,
Yeah.
but you always hope that maybe things change.
Yeah.
But it did not, and that was my point when I said, okay, I have to leave.
This is when you left to London?
Came back to London,
so,
yeah.
What was your... So you lived also in Finland and...
No.
Okay.
In
Stockholm.
In Stockholm, okay.
Yeah.
And why did you go to Stockholm?
Well, back to Stockholm, because it wasn't working when... That's already after Berlin was after Stockholm.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So I thought that after that you came back to London, but after Berlin you went to Stockholm. Okay.
No. Stockholm, Berlin, back to London.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Which I guess is like, for me, it sounds like a bit of a similar story, because I jumped around. Did my master's in Europe, then went back to California and spent a few years there. And as I was explaining, it just didn't click. I mean, I loved being in San Francisco, and I love the city and the food and my family, and people are incredibly warm, and but there was just something that was slightly off, and I don't know like what the moment was, but there were enough pieces that added up where it was like, okay, you need to put yourself in a different environment to be able to drive some of these ideas forward, and whatever that kind of like vision you have for yourself, and which can be scary as shit. And especially like when I did it when I was mid to late 20s. So there is always going to be a social pressure, maybe more so in certain countries, but okay, what the hell are you doing? You're 26, 27,
Yeah.
You're going to leave again, and that can be really scary, but it's so important that you just follow it, and you take a risk, and make sure that you know that 2 years isn't guaranteed, 1 year isn't guaranteed.
No.
And how are you feeling now then about the fact that you came back, and kind of where you're at now as an artist, or just generally in your journey, that you did make that decision?
I think it was the best decision I could do. It was like once I decided that I will be publishing, I knew exactly in which way I wanted to do it. And once I had decided that, I knew exactly I have to follow, and where can I do it. And I cannot do it in Berlin. It hasn't worked out in Stockholm before. So let's go where I know other artists are that connect with me actually, and with my vision maybe. And I did, whenever you leave a place, you try to do it a different way somewhere else. Learn, what you learned, the mistakes that you made. You try to make it better next time.
Yeah.
And
you're particularly conscious of things that you could really improve on.
Yeah.
You kind of start. You almost get a fresh start where it's like, okay, let me just try again.
Yeah. So I knew that I would have to have a job before I leave. That I would have to know where I live when I come, because you know exactly that you need to be here to find a flat then, actually, or like a room. And I had all that. I was living with friends when I came back. I had a job. I have been doing interviews like 6 months before that. I had a job. I had a place at least to stay. And from there on, I could find another place close to my job. No traveling anymore. No health problems anymore. Just, a job that I liked my colleagues. I had great, good environment for also your mind, like peace of mind that you need. And from then on, like living in a place as well that is with nice people, not too many people, very important.
Not 8.
You have to what?
Not 8.
Not 8 people.
Yeah. Which is nice sometimes.
Yeah.
I lived in a house in San Francisco. I had like 12 people. It was a warehouse, and it was like, there were moments.
It was a warehouse.
Yeah.
It was not an English townhouse.
No, yeah.
Like with 3 floors.
Yeah,
like
There's some really
small.
beautiful moments of having 12 people, and there's also like some moments where you're just like, okay,
yeah,
I just need a break.
Yeah, no, because I built the base that I needed. just like for the survival, and on top of that, I created what I wanted.
Yeah.
I worked on it the last year. I worked on the editing straight the whole time, next to traveling. I worked on the artwork. I knew exactly I wanted to do it on Amazon Kindle, so I knew how I had to format the whole thing, and now I'm just waiting for a tax number.
Yeah, I love that too, because that description of that process of choosing where I need to be and who I need to surround myself with feels like it feels like it's like a story of negation. Like you discover what you need by seeing what you don't need.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I like London, but I'll go check out Stockholm. Oh fuck Stockholm. Okay, I'm gonna check out Berlin. Okay, I've reminded again why I don't need that. And actually, now that I've gotten rid of all these things, it just brings me back to London again.
Yeah.
And like having faith in that, because it can be very easy to say, well, actually, I'm not going back to London. I was already there. But and that's so important as well, because I think generally you grow up thinking, oh, I'm just gonna like find what I like.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes you just need to like get punched in the face a couple times and be like,
realize what you don't like.
yeah, I don't like that. I'm gonna avoid that.
No.
Which is an important lesson. Yeah, I that was great. I appreciate you coming on, Eve, and sharing about your process and meaning in the writing. And I'm really happy for you. It sounds like it's been quite a journey, and you're kind of like it feels like you're on the precipice of something that's a bit new and really exciting. So congratulations, and thanks for sharing your story.
And tell us where we can find your stories.
Hopefully, in a month on Amazon Kindle.
Okay.
Great, and I guess we'll share that as well. And
We'll have it on the link in the description.
Great. Thanks, Eve.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay.